Okay, Mr. Palestina, whenever you're ready. Good evening. This is the work session for Northfield City Council, June 14th of 2022. This meeting was properly advertised in accordance with Public Law 1975, Chapter 231 in the Press of Atlantic City on January 8th of this year. May I have a flag salute led by Mayor Chow, please?
To the flag of the United States
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Mrs. Bucci? Here. Mr. Deweese?
Here.
Mr. Leaves?
Here.
Mr. Notaro?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Utz, I see you in Zoom. Are you intending to participate in the meeting, sir? Let's see if he answers me. And Mr. Palestina.
Here.
Sir, is it okay if we just proceed, and if he responds, we can amend the roll call?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
he's there, but he's not answering me.
I'm just going to watch, Mary.
Oh, you're just going to watch. Okay, thank you, Mr. Utz. Okay, Mr. President,
Thank you.
he is absent, correct.
Okay. Committee reports, Councilman Deweese.
The football field seems to be holding up fairly well. Have you looked at it lately, Dave?
No, I haven't.
I know I've asked the Public Works guys just to keep an eye on it, check the irrigation, make sure it's, it seems to be browning up a little bit, but I think they just put product down so that it may have caused it browning a little bit. So Public Works will keep an eye on that. There was a request to put some picnic tables at First Street Playground. We took some of the picnic table from the closed campground to put them at First Street Playground. So two picnic tables out there now. The painting of the museum, a little bit of a step back. The company had some medical issues. They had the president had surgery, so they're delayed. So we're trying to get a revised schedule. So I'll let you know how that goes. If it's something that's not going to work out for us, and we're going to move forward, I have two other companies that can do this for us. That's all. Councilman Rivera.
Mr. President, report for this meeting.
EMS, we had 88 calls in Northfield for the month of May. Our EMS provider responded outside of the city, so usually calls 61 times. So basically all I have.
Thank you. Councilman Smith.
Thank you, Mr. President. For Little League and Babe Ruth, no news there really, except that in about 10 days, they'll start the district competition. So wish them luck as they move into the all-star portion of their season. Northfield Community School graduation is next Tuesday, the 21st. Graduation is at 5 p.m. Of course, you're all welcome to and invited to attend per Mr. Bertonis. So 5 p.m. next Tuesday. And shared services, we actually just had a meeting. Mr. Councilman Notaro and Councilman Leeds and myself just met with representatives, the mayor from Eggover Township and Mayor Maddock from Linwood was there talking about discussing the dispatch contract. So we had an introductory discussion. We let them know our concerns with the arrangement as it presently is constituted. And their business administrator is going to look at their numbers and then provide some details to us within a week or 2 weeks so that we can, continue discussions on that front. they were willing to listen. So we'll see what they come back with. We'll keep you abreast of that. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Councilman Lucci.
I just want to, before I go into my committee reports, I just want to recognize Melody Scalise. She's a resident in Northfield that came in with little Uncle Sam statue at Veterans Park on our end. And it looks really, really nice. So I just wanted to mention that. real quick. Municipal Alliance, Golf with a Cop, and Hooked on Fishing were two events that we had. A nice turnout on Shannon. Campbell obviously did such an excellent job in all of that. Recommended. One thing that happened when we had the golf is that the chief actually got in the cage with that you collect the balls in and let the golfers try to hit him in the cage. So he was a real good sport that day. The next thing that we have coming up is National Night Out, which will be on August 2nd. As far as insurance and safety, Paul Mayall from the JIF will be attending our July 19th meeting to do a presentation and get some questions that we have at that time. regarding issues. Library attendance is continuing to increase. Audrey has prepared her summer reading program, and we have also gotten some sponsors. None of our local sponsors sponsor some of the prizes for the reading content that she's had. The library, I had my first economic development committee chamber comic meeting last night. 6 people showed up, but it's a start. So what we're
Good start.
It's a start, right? So what we're that's our obstacle, right? Outreach to the businesses that don't have enough. So we're gonna have another meeting next Thursday, 23rd. In the meantime, I'm gonna get another letter together. The businesses that showed up are gonna hand out flyers to other businesses in person to invite them to the meeting so that we can get some more momentum going. Like I said, we're just at this point in time, we're just throwing some ideas around as to what we're gonna do with that. The last thing I have is the Diocese of Camden reached out with regards to that senior housing project on the county property. They completely moved where they had intended to place it. It's completely away from the cemetery. It's not near the cemetery. It's not even on the same side of the lot at the cemetery. So that's at least a good thing. So we're going to be setting up a meeting, the committee on that to move forward and see what we're going to do.
Did you set a date for that year?
And let me just add that if the diocese is successful in their health services and housing, it may take approximately about 3 years for them to complete the building. Estimated around 80 units. And it would go towards, my understanding, towards credit towards our affordable housing.
Well, that would just come to us, and we wouldn't have to negotiate anything with that. That just comes to us just on its own, doesn't it? Just because it's in Northfield, unless,
Right, which you could count it.
what's the purpose for us being in there?
What's the purpose of us being at the meetings?
Mhm.
Only because it's
Just
in Northfield.
because
It's in Northfield
need to
and
be
we want to do good paper.
Yeah,
Okay.
What's the rest of it?
and I'm sure neighbors are gonna have questions and some are gonna be happy, some are not.
And we all recognize that
One of the
it is their property. And
Did you have any sort of a site plan for it or anything yet?
Using it legally,
Is it behind the nursing home?
what can you do?
Councilman?
All right. The senior committee will be having our luncheon on Thursday, the 16th at noon at Little Italy. They haven't met in since before the closing down everything for COVID, so this will be the first time back as a group, and we'll report on it the next meeting. As far as the, let's see, what was it? We had a meeting today for the government workers union. Actually, there was a scheduling conflict and we couldn't get to cover the the white color was supposed to be our meeting today. However, we rescheduled it for the 23rd. I mean, we're 2 years beyond the expiration of their contract. That includes our administrative folks in the tax office and the police department, a couple of people there, and then all of the crossing guards. They're all in that same branch of that union branch, and hopefully we can get this taken care of soon. I mean, we recently finished up the blue collar, which is the employees at Public Works. And we have a memorandum together for the supervisors, which is just one supervisor in the tax office and one supervisor at Public Works. And this third piece we've been trying to meet, and hopefully we can get this done. There's a lot of people in that group. And that's all I have for my. Is there any questions on any committee from anyone? Okay. On the work session, is there any update on this, on the drainage issue? Neither the county nor the state have come back on either of those items. And the truck, I know, is being worked on. Where are we with the bid? Is that being reworked?
The bid date is,
Okay.
so that's.
That's already been taken care of.
We have.
Well, the bond is on. Okay, so I imagine the bid got taken care of then.
Mr. President, I just said I received a memo today from Dawn. Originally, we had a meeting with the county facilities program or community facilities program. Pre-application came to the acquisition of the ladder truck. The schedule conference in order to discuss additional items needed, and as a result of possibly a grant or money through it. As a result of this meeting, Dawn has written that the city is able to obtain quote, competitive financing rates from another source and will not be pursuing, pursuing financial or financing through your program. We're hoping we can obtain grant funding to assist in the purchase. So that then is in the
Yeah, the USDA, that's right.
yes.
The USDA, we don't meet the qualifications,
Right.
so we're not getting that we thought we had. It's that program is mostly for rural and,
Yeah, there was a thing that was popular, trying to.
yeah, our population changed a little bit. Also, if we can get better, better competitive rates for financing, we're not eligible. And we can't say that we don't have competitive rates for financing, but the bond they're offering.
The one thing I will say about.
We know that we are.
The one thing that we had discussion with the chief, I asked the chief to get the culture to come because of the introduction of the usually or their standard operating guidelines.
Yes.
There was some, one of the council members last time, who was asking a question, I couldn't answer it, so I didn't know the complicated. But one of the things I do want to point out is the bid that they submitted. Tomorrow, we're going to raise the rate by $93,000.
Well, they're not, it's possible. It's not that they are. I mean, I don't know, if we can extend, you know.
Well, that's something that we need to make sure that they can build for, even if not this week, send that letter of intent to purchase. That does not.
Based on that number and that. So in other words, not gonna hold that number.
Well,
The last thing we need is it to go up 100,000.
I mean, this is something with the way the economy's been going and with all the other things.
Right,
That wasn't,
but if we
it's
could,
not
we could
unexpected, but
give them a letter saying, we intend to purchase this, but this letter does not hold us to that. That's something we can consider.
non-binding letter of intent
To hold that part of the lock, I mean,
to who?
to whoever the bid people, CFO is.
I'll I'll follow up with Dawn and see if there's anything we can do to
To hold that price.
hold the price. Talk amongst yourselves while I wait for something later.
Give any input on that? Did you get a feel from the vendor? It was a possibility.
It's a possibility, while the manufacturers told us that this price icon, they don't know how much it is.
Part of that is from the date that you see, it's 250 days to delivery.
Yes, about 20 months.
Okay. I don't believe we have anything nothing on the public auction, so we will move on to new business. So we already did cover the USDA grant, so let's see. Northfield Community School, student present during primary election day. We had a discussion about figuring out what to do with this, as they close down the school for general elections. During the primary, there's issues with students being in the building when
There's typically a small turnout. I think we want to talk, do you want to
go forward and try to ask the school if they can close that day or work and use that as a service day.
we access from the outside? I don't know. It seemed to work as if they lock you.
Who made this request? What? Were there concerns?
There was during the election, during this past Tuesday's election, that the stores going into the common areas where the children were, they were not locked.
They were open, right.
They were open, they were not locked, but everything that the workers needed was contained within the gym.
Except for
But then they
bathrooms.
started wandering out there looking for coffee and
Bathrooms and, right.
No, no bathrooms.
No bed,
Bathrooms are in the gym.
In the gym.
everything, yeah. they were locked.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, everything was set up to accommodate that.
But the doors weren't locked. So
They-
they locked the doors.
They can't be locked. No.
They can't.
They're out.
Fire.
For egress, if you take emergency. Somebody has suggested that you not have it there. But I don't see any way we can hold it up. There's no place in town to hold it, and then we'd have to have probably 8 different building sites. At least, what would you say? At least 4 to 6, in order to accommodate that, so. Moving forward, maybe that needs something, Brian can speak to.
Just writing myself a note.
If,
We'll talk amongst ourselves. Like, I have a meeting with you.
Tomorrow.
Oh,
And I can mention it to him.
Yeah.
Our concerns. I have quite get what you're talking about. That may relate to reopening the building and access to the public.
yeah.
Would it be better to put officers there throughout the day than?
There is an officer there.
Mary, what's your concern?
so if I could, so the municipality doesn't choose the polling place. The County Board of Elections does, and that's statutory. So all the clerks in Atlantic County are asked to recommend polling places by a certain date. We only recommend one because it's all we have.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, there is a law that says schools can't say no. Now, there's been for years legislation to attempt to change that, to allow schools to say no. If the schools are allowed to say no, my inclination is that they will, and they'll kick us out for the general and for the primary. At the general, the school is closed. It's an in-service day. There are teachers in the building. We do need to get special permission from the prosecutor's office to have police presence. The police presence is requested by the school, even when there's not students there. Prosecutor's office allows the police to be there. They're not there to handle any voter if there's somebody with a complaint about voting, two people fighting at a machine, that's not why they're there. They're there to prevent security for the school. Since I started here 15 years ago, I have always asked whoever the superintendent was, can we close the school on primary day? Nope, can't do it. They can't build an in-service day in that late in the year. It's not productive for the school administration. They need to get the 5 in-service days that the unions allow them to have earlier in the year to provide benefit to the school. So making it in-service is not an option. So I said, can we just close the school then? If we get complaints every year.
I'm a teacher.
Mhm.
We had an in-service last Friday.
Pete just told me, I asked Pete again.
That part is not
Well,
accurate.
I
They
can
can
only go
schedule
by.
in-service days for any day.
He
as
can, but
the
for
year
him,
they
there's
want.
no value that late in the year. He said, whatever he teaches them, they're not going to retain and bring back in September. He needs to build them in the calendar. So for Tuesday, I talked to Pete and I talked to Pete again Wednesday. They're going to have this on their agenda at the next school board meeting. And I asked him if it would help if city council advocated that they please close the school to students on the primary election day. He said it can't hurt. So the doors can't be locked. At the end of the day, if somebody's going to do something, a police officer in the hallway is a reactive measure. I think if we as a community are that concerned, the easiest answer, because we don't have a viable alternative for the voters, is to not have students present. Now, somebody might say, well, you could put 2 voting districts here and maybe one at the fire station, and you could put one here and one there. I will tell you that we have one polling place and people still get confused about where to vote. I'm very, very concerned about disenfranchising a great number of voters on election day if we parse it out amongst a whole bunch of locations that all have to be ADA compliant, all have to have significant power accommodations for the new e-poll books and all of the other things. So they still may say no. But at this point, for 15 years, it's only been me asking. So if the council then supports the idea that closing the school to students that day may be in the best interest of the community, that's how we got here. Because I asked Pete again and he's like, can't do it. Election days, I will tell you I could tell you what day the primary is going to be in 2049. They're statutory. It is always the first Tuesday after the first Monday. You can book it years in advance. So it's not as though we don't know when the date is, we know. And they're building the school calendar now. So if they're going to close it for the primary in 2023, now's the time for us to ask them to do that.
And with that kind of knowledge, it's good to keep the students out of it.
And I had a woman, I spoke to her at the polling place when I was there. She was very concerned that also I had the tents of ropes in front of the emergency exits, but they're emergency exits, you can't block them. And if somebody wants to get through it, they're just going to walk past it. That's what they're going to do.
Yeah.
And I don't have an answer for that.
So you need our support. Do some favor. doing that.
So are you available to go to the meeting, the next school board meeting? Because they will be discussing it, Brian.
Yeah, I can check the calendar.
He gave me the date and I wrote it down. I'm sorry, I don't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, I
Should
have
we
it.
draft a letter from council and mayor and council and?
I think that's a
requesting that?
great idea.
I think that would be is beneficial to Brian.
Is there anyone on council that doesn't deal with you from the school?
No, I think it's a good idea.
I'm actually, it's the 27th and I'm actually in Maine.
I will go in June.
Yeah.
I will go if somebody else wants to go, but I'll be more happy.
What time is what's your meeting tomorrow? Did you say your meeting tomorrow?
Around
I think what Mary's saying is that the. board
No, I
meeting
understand. Yeah.
is the Best way to address, I mean, you can address it in your meeting, but I think what she's saying is address it at the board meeting.
Yeah.
It's not Pete's
No, I-
decision, it's the board's decision, and he's going to bring it to the board at their meeting.
Yeah, that's good that. We need a letter first so they get it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, we do a letter and we'll also attend. Somebody will attend. Brian's not available, so. Would anybody else like to attend? or
I might be, actually, I might be, so let me confirm that.
Let me know.
Yeah.
So. And as far as the election goes, I mean, very smoothly. I actually was actually approached by one of the poll workers that commented on how well it was, how well our election goes. And the attention to detail that Mary puts into that and taking care of our elections. Hopefully that helps us have good elections and then not disenfranchise people. It's important. One of the most important things we have in town or in this country. It's fair and open elections. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you. I appreciate the support. I do.
Next thing on new business was to discuss the sober living. I think you were approached by a resident, but I tried looking.
Yeah.
Tried looking for some of the ordinances that one integrated from the Stockholm. Said they had any site or is limiting proximity between sober homes or
Or
a total number for the town.
And if we're even allowed to do that.
Yeah,
They have that element. We've been able to do that in the ordinance.
Carver City has an ordinance.
We can do.
LA Carver City.
What are,
okay.
what are the proximity, what are the details of that?
Egg Harbor City?
Yeah.
So Egg Harbor City has one that makes it a conditional use, which I guess in theory would prompt a notification. That's like a lot of complaints people receive was, we don't even know when these things are going in. So if there's an applicant for one of these types of facilities, if it's conditional use, they got to they can show that they satisfy the conditions for the use. At this point, somehow we did get notice. Some of the, I guess, conditions and controls are occupancy levels. You know, this one says about 10 individuals. It has to have a requirement of an alcohol and drug-free environment, no on-site counseling, therapy, treatment, voluntary financial services, distance requirements of separation of 600 feet in this particular instance.
Between sites.
Yeah,
And this is the city, which
this is Egg Harbor City, and I'm not aware that they've been sued. I'm not aware that it's been tested. So I think if there is 1,000 feet distance from a school, so I think what we need is a general consensus to build our ordinance, and that assumes you want to do it. I mean, at the last meeting, you know, we kind of heard the complaints, and I didn't get the impression that, you know, we were in favor or not in favor. It was sort of just a complaint session to which we responded. There's nothing we, you know, we don't have an ordinance. So I guess the first question is, do you want to do an ordinance, and if so, what should be in it?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that came up that I thought, proximity, I think proximity, one of the proximity to another home, I think is, and I'm in favor of that. I think that we should try to separate them. So that they're not, so that
they're not on top of
that
each
one
other.
street doesn't get overrun with
Right.
multiple homes. Not that it's the worst neighbor, but they could be. And, or, not that, I don't even know that they could be. I just know that it's a concern of the residents.
It's a concern of the resident.
And I think if you have any concentration of other facilities, I think it affects the neighborhood. It has an impact.
I guess the question is, what basis do we have to say that, other than the people that complained that night? Mary, we checked with Captain Flanagan, and I think the information we got back from him was we've never had a complaint about any of these facilities that accurate, other than one of the residents' car got broken.
Yeah.
They were the victim in that case, not the You know, so I guess you have to.
Right, and right, and what are we creating an ordinance for something that's not even a problem?
That's up to you.
I mean, right, is that what you're saying?
Is it a
Basically,
problem and does it need to be
If the
addressed?
police aren't out and, you know,
Yeah, Mary, you had, what the captain say exactly? The gist of it was there was no real issue.
Nothing enforceable. Like my office has gotten complaints that there's too many people there. That's not a legitimate enforceable complaint. That kind of thing.
Too many people.
I mean, is-
Too many people, just visitors, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even know if you can say that.
I think the rule.
They may
is-
think the 10,
How do you know who's
the
living
10
there?
occupants are too
Right.
many, you know?
is the separation between, I mean, is that unrealistic, even though, you know, it's not like you're putting that in place because there's problems, it's just you're putting that in place because of the neighborhood. You don't want too many in one area for the neighbors,
If you
for
take,
values or
you
whatever,
take-
whatever investors
Well,
and people that are invested in their homes want to,
Well,
they're gonna
there's
feel
10
about
there's
it.
10 residents and obviously, as we had at that one meeting where they were here, they don't all have vehicles because they're obviously, if they end up at a home of this nature, a lot of them may not have a vehicle anymore because they're coming out of rehab or jail. But there will be a few, so it's going to be more vehicles on the streets. Yeah. Or maybe half the residents have them, or a third of the residents have them.
But if they're parked lit, what are they
Well, it's just-
violating?
I'm just saying to, given proximity, that's one of the downfalls of not only is that you have two homes next to each other, then you have.
Do these facilities have to register with Northfield at all?
No.
Well, he was discussing some type
Well,
of,
the other thing would be. the
Process.
conditional use.
yeah, I mean, we could make it a conditional, you apply certain conditions.
at least we know what's going on and.
Like 600 feet, I mean, what they say is 600 feet along the frontage of any avenue or terrace. Now, in Egg Harbor City, they have all those tiny little terraces, Fifth Terrace, Fourth
Yeah.
Terrace, they're small streets. And then they say 300 feet along the frontage of any street. You think about 300 feet though, or 600 feet for that matter. You could literally have on every block, right?
Yeah.
How long is an average block? 2 per block?
Mm-hmm.
So are you really clamping down on anything? Other than knowing that they're going in, which, is that a benefit to council? Really, no.
Mr. President,
You know who's going in.
let me just say that the complaints that I received from residents, in particular, the one which recently discussed. Number one, I think people are fearful having such a building or establishment within their neighborhood. One of the things I hear people bring up, I have young children. And I have these people who are, you know, trying to soberness or, you know, drug problems and so forth. Face this on that element within the reach of these individuals, not to be saying that these individuals are bad people. The other problem that I had see place is dealing with cars, you know, and it's not that it's not illegal, but some of the problems that have been created, and I'm just pointing out that some of these people, or many of these people don't have cars, and people come pick them up and take them to where it's necessary. And they have seen violations in terms of how they drive in the area. For example, not that this is a violation, but cars coming into the area and backing out backwards down the street. That's not illegal. Okay, you think it is, but it's not illegal. Going through stop signs, even though that is a ticket, police are there. And one most recent situation that not dealing with this living, sort of living, but very close, is that people were parking in the street that created an area where there is no parking. And in one instance, there was an emergency call from EMS. They could not get down the street because these cars were parked illegally, even though there were signs that says no parking.
They had to come the other way. And eventually, this was like 1 o'clock in the morning. So they eventually, were awakened by all of the action that was going on. But these are some of the concerns that people are concerned
But
that,
that wasn't a home?
but
Did you say that wasn't associated with the home?
no, it was right down the street there, but there were,
So-
cars were parking there. And they were concerned that this would lead to people who had cars or being, using cars. They're parking down in these small streets that are not used. I mean, even though I'm saying that may not necessarily be part, but they are concerned about the number of cars or traffic that's been created as a result of these sober homes or people being picked up for wherever they're going and ignoring stop signs because it's, small streets and so forth, or backing out backwards. And obviously not going through necessarily through the stop sign or stopping.
I mean, the one caution I would say to that is, I don't think this council can look upon one of these facilities any differently than a single family home. Like, me and my wife can have 8 kids and 10 cars.
Right.
And if my idiot son decides to back down the street, he should get a ticket. It's not a function of because we're the Facenda Sober Living Home, it's because I have an idiot first son who decides to back down the street. So I think you have to look at it.
Yeah.
And I think we have to, in terms of parking, as long as that car is legally parked, I don't think there's anything we can do to be any more stringent on a sober living facility versus a single family home. So.
And realistically, you drive down the city, every street has cars parked in the wrong direction. Nothing gets done, then they just let them do it.
Right.
We're not gonna force those.
It's just a matter of.
I can't go to start saying, well, why?
People just don't want that in.
There are better things for the city to be involved in, and I understand that. But, you have these individuals who take ownership of the streets in the neighborhood, and then they feel that a home is an infringement of,
I do realize, well, we know it's not.
Oh,
We know
definitely.
that because of, disabilities laws, we can't do anything other than put reasonable checks and balances.
Sure.
And an investor,
That's all, and that's the discussion on that. What's a reason?
If-
Checks and balances, what's a reasonable-
if there's no distance between homes, sober living homes, as an investor, I would purchase that house and have 2 next to each other. It's easier to manage. So they're going to want their homes closer to one another. If you're an investor and you're doing this. And I mean, I think that the distance portion between sober living homes is okay. I don't think that's based on any problems that you may have. There's no problems, it's not based on a problem that you're having with these. It's just based on spreading them out a little bit, so they're not on top of each other.
I think that's good thinking, but as our solicitor pointed out, to his knowledge, the one in city and township has yet to be tested. Till such time, someone wants to challenge it, and so be it, whatever it may be.
How does that mirror what the state guidelines are? Do the state guidelines have any, do they have any guidelines on?
I don't believe there's any restrictions in the state guidelines.
I don't believe it is.
No, that's why it's a surprise that the city does have one. And that's part of our case. That maybe
We don't even know if we can do this,
Right.
It hasn't been challenged.
You might lose later. But I guess the question is, does this council feel as though it's a big enough problem to legislate it?
Well,
As of
I
yet,
mean,
it's not been.
I will say, in all my years in city council, I've only had, when these type of homes that were built and what they were used, I've only had 2 of them that have been challenged or questioned by the media, only 2. Most recent one is the one that,
It's become a more
yes,
evident
definitely.
as
The numbers come in.
more come in, and I think that's the issue.
What is it?
Kind of
How many do we have?
Six,
How many
seven.
did we have last year?
What's the total, Mary?
I think it's 11.
11.
How many did we have 5 years ago?
Don't know.
I don't know that there are any, and I don't know, I'm asking, are they any more
Yeah, so
prevalent
a few
today?
new ones.
or-
A few new ones that-
In a conversation with the gentleman from the state, because if there's work done, I'm sorry, or,
No, you're fine.
You're
I
right.
wanted to know how you knew.
I thought the guy told you about his accident.
oh, no, it's public. That's not a secret. The only way the municipality is notified if there's work that's subject to the Uniform Construction Code done in the home to make it ready for this type of occupancy. In that case, the state comes down and takes the file because they manage the UCC permit process. So there was an issue with the gentleman and the state hadn't picked up the file yet. So the guy made arrangements to come physically get it from me. And in that conversation, it came up and I said, well, how many do we have? It was just like that. It wasn't, but it's not a secret.
Well, I guess the question is, do we want to go forward with a comprehensive ordinance? And
Other towns?
I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I think if this,
I would support it if council
it
wants.
sounds as though there hasn't been any issues that. Yeah.
So we have, let them know, and there's been no police activity then.
I would say we just keep an eye on it and be prepared that those three items, I think would be initially the three that I would be concerned with.
Maybe we sit on it and we'll see what happens. with
Yeah.
the city and other towns.
If those are laws that can withstand challenge, then it may make sense for us to do. We'll see if those are challenged, so, and in those cities where they took that step and they haven't been challenged yet, then.
But if they are to be challenged, they would be liable for defending themselves.
Yeah.
Right.
Or just,
City?
yeah,
Yeah.
or just giving in and not.
So there's no baseball.
Well, yeah, you would either just give it.
So I don't think that we want to open ourselves up to being the first municipality that's challenged on these things like this. So,
Well, we wouldn't be.
And much of
There's
the
other
opposition-
municipalities that did it, but.
And a good percentage of the opposition to the zone was recover folks.
Over their ordinance.
I think that has to do.
Vendor.
I'm not sure about that, but I asked somebody about that. Could be wrong.
Yeah, well, that's an issue, you know?
Yeah.
We don't want to jam up the city with extra fees.
So do you want to?
I would say we'll.
Keep an eye on it.
We'll table it for now, and then if anything. Any issue come up, then maybe.
Do you want to? Do you want to form a committee? Or just leave it? Leave it as is?
I don't think we need an
I'm
additional
on.
committee. I think there's enough of us there's enough of us that are watching this, that we don't need to have a formal committee. It's a top of mind item. Unless there's anybody that wants to be on another committee.
Is everybody in agreement? We sit and watch?
Yeah, is there any? Thank you. Thanks for your input, Craig. Okay. Everybody, please go to your agendas and we'll review that. Approval of the minutes, Councilwoman Bucci, Councilman Leeds. Resolutions, the consent agenda. Is there anything anyone would like to move from the consent agenda? The one item on there, I have a question on the manual. It's good time then. All the items on the new one that are, the only changes are the things that are in red. Everything else is that, Keith, is that? I didn't read both of them. I kind of flew through the one.
There were some changes to the operating procedures. They were renamed and
Okay.
some that were no longer needed were removed.
Okay,
Yeah, as an example, there was one that we had, if there were three or more career firefighters on duty during the day. And there was a medical call, one career firefighter would go for that. If nobody showed up to take the ambulance, a second career firefighter to take the ambulance. We don't have a first responder current time.
Okay.
And that's basically what we.
And you remove the fourth gone water tanker.
Yeah.
Plus two, right?
Okay, thank you. All right, so, the resolutions, Councilman Leeds and Councilman Notaro. Ordinance 7, Councilman Notaro and Councilman Smith. Ordinance 8, Councilman Smith and Councilwoman Berkey. Payment of bills, Councilman DeWeese, and meeting notices, Councilman DeWeese.
Who was the second one?
Ordinance 8, the second was Councilwoman Berkey.
I'm sorry, could you
Second on
repeat?
bills.
Oh, payment of bills, second on bills. Councilman Leeds,
Who was first, please?
Councilman DeWeese,
DeWeese and Leeds on bills?
yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions? Notices, meetings were,
Me.
meeting notices, yes. Councilman DeWeese. Yeah, that's fine. It's casual Tuesday. Casual. I like that. At this time, we'll open the meeting to the public. Anyone from the public wishing to speak on any subject, ask that you please state your name and address for the record and observe a 5-minute limit per speaker. Anyone from home?
Tom Boyd, 117 Northfield Avenue. And let me apologize. Earlier today, I forgot to plug in my hearing aid. So I missed on the item on the work session topic of potential public auction of the city-owned property block 66, lot 11. Is that
It's-
up for auction?
It's still pending. We haven't had any updates to that. So,
Forgive me, it's been a while since I've seen this.
Yes, sir.
Meeting, but at one time, there was memorandum of understanding with Habitat for Humanity. Is that still in the works?
yes, we're still, that is still a potential.
Okay.
That is still a potential to do something of that nature with that lot, yes.
Okay.
There was another outside investor looking at it as well, but nothing's moved as of yet, and I guess it might be a function of the housing market.
Well, it'd be great if, Habitat for Humanity would help with the affordable housing
Absolutely.
credits.
Yes, and that was one of the reasons we reached out. Something like that, or veterans.
And I know a lot of people have questions about it. I spent 10 years while we were joining the local Atlantic County chapter. And I think as most of you know, I mean, the recipients of the funds have to give in 250 hours of sweat equity.
Yes.
They have to hold a mortgage with the Atlantic County Improvement Authority, often underwrites, okay, 20-year mortgage. So in my experience, has been very responsible homeowner.
Yeah.
Hopefully, that will continue to materialize. I know we don't have a local building chapter anymore.
Right.
Hybrid out of Central Jersey.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Anyone on Zoom there?
Anyone in Zoom wish to speak, please raise your hand and I'll unmute you. No.
Okay. Seeing no one else wishing to speak, we will now close the public session. My motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That was Louise and Lee.
I noticed they hesitated, so I didn't quite get it. For those of you in Zoom, the regular meeting will begin momentarily. Good evening. This is the regular session, Northfield City Council, June 14th of 2022. This meeting was properly advertised in accordance with Public Law 1975, Chapter 231 on January 8th of this year. May I have a flag salute led by Mayor Chow, please?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing up like this. I think most of us. Let's remember and keep in our prayers those serving in our nation's armed forces, especially our troops who are away from home. Thank you.
Indian flag day.
Sorry, just a moment. Have a little bunch of Zoom people. Roll call, Mrs. Bucci.
Here.
Mr. Deweese.
Here.
Mr. Leeds.
Here.
Mr. Notaro.
Here.
Mr. Smith.
Here.
Mr. Utz. Mr. Palestina.
Here.
Mr. Chow. Mr. President.
Thank you. Approval of the minutes.
I'd like to move to dispense with the reading of the minutes. They have been distributed to council and on our file. On file in the office of the municipal clerk.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, President. Every year I do an annual luncheon. We have the city council to express our appreciation for the service and dedication of our employees. Say that it was really well attended and we know the employees in all the departments, especially thankful of the recognition. I also want to thank everyone who well attended the Memorial Day services that we had in our Veterans Wheel. Again, it was well attended. We had some excellent speakers and some music from Band and some other sources. So it was very well attended. I've been trying to meet with the new manager of the public bank, as you know, Walker had left about last month. I spoke to the temporary manager. She indicated that this new person will be coming online. And they are very anxious to introduce themselves. City council for that, you know, that promise. So when our legal opinion or service from Nicole, they returned with regards to the placement issue. To the concerns are that it was certain comp, and I have not heard that any employee city has the best team, which has expressed interest. So it's still up in the air. There's no replacement, and so that does put a little pressure when there's things, which means that Mr. Hudson and myself are not able to vote, and there's some applications that are coming up next meeting, so expect there, but hopefully we will have enough members to serve that evening on the applications. The central court, since this is a member to me, asking that we would be in having an objection for the city, who would now like to join. I said, the response to that because of problems. And the issue is that the municipality that they were doing a shared service report was originally somewhere on $10,000 to $5,000 a year. The city that they were having the shared services has a new business image there, and they raised it up to $20,000. So financially, in their small budget they had, it would not be conducive. So that's the reason why Portland City now has become another member of. I received a letter from Mitchell High School regarding graduation ceremonies. Again, if anyone is interested in attending, please notify the people and officials of the event that they will be attending. So, I'm very disheartened in the event or a series of events that occurred in the municipality. And I'm sure this is one of the issues that I have been meeting with Superintendent of the school, Mr. Petronis. There has been an individual who has been exposing himself. One is by the school district, another is in the bike path, and most recently at the library as a bike path in the street. The police have caught this individual. They identified him. I believe he's not from Northfield. The individual was taken to the county and was booked, so to speak, but according to the legislation, the court system itself was released within 24 hours. So the individual is back on the road, so to speak. There's, we are looking, but we just don't know the missing.
They arrested him, said.
Oh, they arrested him again.
Over we have to arrest him, said.
Oh, okay. I know he's been exposing himself in the other municipalities. And the other individual is acknowledging the police arresting, he acknowledges that he exposed himself. So we have some problems in that respect there. The last thing I had was a meeting with the shop stewards at the police department. Where we took a survey as to how many individuals would be interested in applying for the chief's position and the qualifications that we have within our ordinance. And the number has been somewhere between it's not a firm number, but that's a strong possibility. So the union thing for me is that we would be interested in changing our ordinance so that, we're doing number three, one to three individuals, then we wouldn't have to go through all the situation prior in accordance to our ordinance, the Chiefs Association, to hold a test for them. And then, they in turn, even the applicants will also have to pay a fee with regards to their testing procedure as far as the school. So I brought it up to Nicole. I will tell you that Nicole, I will take care of kind of reluctant for us to move forward and eliminate that, especially if it's certain amount of time or limited amount of time. That's what the issue, but I explained that to shop stewards, but they asked me to go and see how if we'd be interested in pursuing that. Right now, in 90 days, the chief has to advertise the position. We are shooting for sometime in October for the testing procedure to occur. Once that's occurred, I'm looking at the individual officially or not officially appointed in December of this year, so that there is a transitional period for the chief. On that other note, there is my intention to bring to the council in January the elimination of having the Chiefs Association interview again candidates that may be for other positions that will come up as a result of promotion within the police department for the chief. I just feel that this is my personal opinion. There is a fee that the city will have to pay the Chiefs Association for their testing procedure, as well as applicants for their part for schooling and testing and so forth in preparation for the chiefs. For their various different office position, whether you're sergeant, lieutenant, or captain. That is sitting on the side, but I would like to get a strong opinion as far as your feeling about the chief. Should we continue as a recommendation from the poll to go through as per ordinance to continue the process, or do you want to change it?
Yeah, I think the best option here is to follow up professional advice. Not making any changes. We expect to invest and working for 5 back on that's delay these. And is there anybody that think we should as we're testing at this point.
Yeah, but we also need to make sure that we clarify that this test is for the rank of chief.
Yes, yeah, no,
That this, whoever takes this test won't be considered for any other commissioner.
and those already would be.
That's, you know, yeah, and traditional concern is, well, if I don't think it's test the chief, and then they pick the third guy to be the next deputy chief that we created, it's not fair to do the leading five, so we gotta make sure that it's just for the chief, at least.
You know, it's because of the position and going forward, we want, involvement in the chief.
We'll revisit the local
Yeah,
process
when we
every
get
year.
involved with that. That's exactly what I'm saying.
But we've done before, you don't have the power to choose from three. Pick three, keep the test.
Within the police department, the court is responses for calls. There was a number of was 307 calls with regards to motor vehicle stops. There were 331 with regards to property checks. There were 906 property checks. Within the total arrest by an officer, there were 9, and with total citations for the month, there's 207. So staff report with regards to the code enforcement, the majority of the citations or inspections with regards to maintenance and repair within, for example, grass overgrow or shrubs overgrowing the runway, expect there. But the only other one I want to note, and you might have received complaints, was dog waste and dog at large. Gotten some complaints with regards to individuals who are not taking the care and maintenance of picking up the dog waste, and it's that the dog is on the right path. And as I said, people are taking, I mean, it's kind of difficult, you know, the dogs do whatever they have to do, and there's not a police officer involved, but that has been a complaint that my office has received. With regards to emergency management report, and there were 3 structure fires during the month that was addressed at the EMO. There, something interesting is internship, growing internship agreement has been approved between the university with the resolution, and this will allow the student project that will use to help develop a shelter management plan.
That's all we need.
Yes, that is on the agenda. And the grant opportunities, the EMAA award pending state of funding from the FEMA, which would be somewhere around $10,000 for the kids performance from July 1 of 2020 through June 30th of 2023, and the reimbursement I'll say it was September 2023. So that's, I believe, is my report. Does anyone have any questions? I need to be when was that luncheon? Oh, the luncheon was very smooth. Yes. On for the planning board, what? To fill the chief's position, is it need to be someone in the police department? Or no, it has to be a city employee. A city employee, yes. So
I think it has to be an official, city official, but
City
can't,
official, excuse me.
but can't be an elected official.
Not, yes. Can't be elected.
Is that effective at the end of the year or next?
As soon as I can find a replacement. But on the same matter, we are reviewing with regards to the reason why the chief resigned, because he felt that it could affect his workman's comp if something happened that was related to his membership on the planning board, and he would not be covered. Where he got that information, I don't know, but I did receive the resignation.
Well, I mean, years ago, it was the traffic stop. so I didn't know where.
They'll push you down it.
Well, what about his workman's comp? Is it going to affect his workman's comp?
Big one.
I don't understand how it affects the
Well,
workman's comp.
We need to be careful with
Yeah.
Yeah.
issues of employment. I
Right.
think we should discuss them
Yeah.
at the appropriate price. The fact is he resigned and we have to fill that.
We have to fill it out,
Appropriate
yeah, that's
person.
his potential.
Yeah, there's nothing to fire
No,
him to serve.
no, it's a volunteer.
It's volunteer.
That's all we have, Mr. President. Thank you. Engineer report.
Thank you, Council President. I had a discussion with Councilman Deweese about the grant application for the municipal aid. I think we talked about Ridgewood Drive between Route 9 all the way to Sutton. So that would be the street we apply to the state for a grant. I mean, the grant will be about in the magnitude of $300,000 to $320,000. So I think this will give us enough money to upgrade the street and fix a few areas. And so if council is in agreement, I need the decision or kind of consensus. Ridgewood from Route 9 to Sutton all the way. It crosses Oak and keeps going, you know.
For the speed humps. one.
In other words, Cedar Bridge.
Ridgewood,
Cedar
yeah.
Bridge, Cedar Bridge, yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Yes. Yeah.
Wrong street.
Yeah. Yeah, drainage was done about 4 years ago. But, all right. So I need consensus because the application has to be in kind of a quick.
Yeah, is there anybody that has a street you think? More needy?
It needs to be kind of a long street. It has to be from a state highway or county road to,
Okay, so that's.
yeah, something along those lines. Okay. All right. So
I'm sorry, Mr. Nasser, I didn't get the street. I'm sorry. Ridgewood.
Ridgewood Drive,
From,
Shore Road.
Not the big.
I mean, I'm not sure road from Route 9 to Sutton.
Ridgewood from, thank you.
Yes.
not to be confused.
All right.
Is everyone in agreement with that? Yes.
But, okay.
Yeah.
The second item is New Jersey American Water Company. As you know, they've been upgrading all the water services now. They're almost halfway through Shepherd and Herbert Drive. They finished the 4 homes on Hemsley. And it's another 3 weeks. They should be wrapped up with the project. We're going to wait 60 days before we pave the roads. We need the settlement period. So that's progressing. The contractor is working there every 4 days a week. They do about 5 to 6 connections a day. So that's, and they're keeping the site clean. I haven't heard many complaints from the residents, few here and there, but they address the complaints as soon as they happen. The other item is contractor paved Merritt Drive and Ridgewood. As you see, it's just they fixed the intersection. We widened the road. Even the 2 or 3 feet width along the narrowest point really makes a difference. When you drive it, you see the big difference. Now it's open. We took some trees down, so it made it open, especially the intersection. Now you can see what's going on. So, and also when we got to bike path, I had the contractor just pave like an extra 10 feet on either side of the bike path. So it makes it look kind of clean and neat. And that got me to the second item. So yeah, it's gonna get striped, of course, yes. So I'm thinking that going forward with our road programs, maybe we should include a couple blocks of the bike path every time we do a job because they'll be in the neighborhood. It doesn't cost a huge amount of money. They will just mill it and pave it. And when you look at Merritt and Ridgewood, Merritt and the bike path, you'll see what it's going to look like. I think that's a preview. I think we should include that going forward. So that's something for council to consider for the future project, or even on this road program we have, maybe we can add a couple blocks. Yeah, a couple blocks. It's not a whole lot of road, but I think it will make it look. Exactly. You just, right. The equipments are there. Just mill it, pave it, and call it a day at that point.
Mr. Nasser,
Yes.
you know how on Zion we put bollards to keep people from driving onto the bike path?
Yes.
Is there concern that this widening will make that sort of look like a road?
Not really. We're not widening it much. We're just going from the 8 to 10 because now it's already 10 anyway,
Okay.
because you got 8 to 9 feet of paving and you got this
Okay.
2 foot of cinder. So yes. Yeah, I think that's, I don't see anybody running on them, to be honest with you. Every time I go on the bike path, nobody's running on these. Yeah, and they look kind of, okay. So, yeah, exactly. So you pave it, you're better off. And we have a bid opening for our 2021 local road program. The only concern I have, I've seen price increases in asphalt material and in cost to put the asphalt down because the equipment's and the diesel. So I'm concerned that we might have like a 30% increase on our budget numbers. Because the asphalt itself, from when we started this project from now, went up by almost 30%. And, as you know, diesel is like triple. So every piece of equipment uses diesel, like the roller, they use 100 gallons a day or something. It's a lot of money. So I think we might have to either, if the number comes too high, we might have to cut back on the project or see if we have enough money in the budget to do it. So our bid opening is next Friday. So I'll bring it back to council the following meeting. That's,
everything's going up, so we're not.
oh, the numbers are, the numbers are crazy. Even from last year, the end of the year till now, asphalt went up by 15% or 17%. Just the material itself, not moving it, just if you pick it up from the plant, went up by 17%. Oh, that's my, I'm sorry, I'm just, somebody has to give some good news, I know, you see it everywhere,
See it every day.
Right.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
Oh, Mr. President, before we get in trouble. The luncheon, it's not paid to the city, it's paid on my part. Oh, I was just curious. No, but I should have wanted to be in.
By the way, it was,
That's what I was thinking.
by the way, it was a good lunch too. That's my report, Council President.
Any questions?
Ridgewood.
Yes.
We've had several complaints, the roads being paved with rail ties from counties and staff and everything. How are we gonna, I know we're not responsible for it, but some of them are really kind of set up the road, some of them are sitting on the ground. So
What we have done on Merit, we spoke with the owners. One of my inspectors will go around, talk to the owners. One guy says, I don't want them, take them away. So we take them away. One guy had like really nice railroad ties. He says, please don't damage them. So we did not even get the milling machine to be close. So we kept it away. But what we do, if we need to do some changes, if we change the grade, we install curb. But if we don't, at this point, we take the railroad ties out, we pave to under the railroad ties and we put new ones in. That's what we have been doing lately. And it works.
One question, revenue for question, at every street, or most of the street, at the intersections, and so there's a long white line to stop.
Mhm.
Is that something that's required by any kind of law or legislation that we have to put these?
The stop bars, yeah, it's a
If we
requirement.
have streets that don't have it,
Well, they should be there. Stop bar is to tell people where to stop. That's what the whole point.
so.
And the stop bar should be before the stop sign, not after the stop sign.
Right,
Yeah.
so I'm sure, I know in
Yeah.
that situation, even project, in the process, completion, you had to paint that line or whatever, but we have streets that have not, one way or whatnot, do we have to get that?
Yes, I think that's Public Works responsibility.
We don't have a machine like that.
Well, to do it by hand is crazy. We could contract with them. That's that would go as golf courses. And that's a huge undertaking for them. And county does, have to do it. And take the process they have whole to do, but we're gonna have to. That's go from budget money for projects. Have to be normal, stop bars and cross walks and music. Paint and, signs are good. Signs,
Very good.
Is there a potential for an agreement with is there a potential for a shared service with the county? If they have that equipment and that unit?
We can certainly, this conversation, we can Gonna run her up to $30 and have the man gonna take the job for her. Yeah, secondly, it's still, there's waiting for some doing that.
I know that, I expected to get a, with regards to having some strike one for the fire department. And did you get the call to? I have, okay. We did make some type of agreement. We're expecting to, utilize the equipment. So I know that you will have to talk to them, but you know what was next.
Well, yeah, you know, I'm not planning on doing this, so.
I mean, stop bars, they're not usually they're not painted line. They use equipments that they heat the material. So it sits on the ground. It's not your just regular paint. Regular paint goes away in short period. Actually the thermoplastic is what's recommended by the DOT. So,
Yeah.
These paper now.
Stop recycling that.
you get 5 sandwiches for lunch from Wawa, you all got like, what am I gonna do with my, for my employees now? Everybody goes to their own lunch.
Good. Any other questions for Lonnie? Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, we're opening to the public, from the public who's on the topic. Accept the record and verify that it was person.
Anyone in Zoom wishing to speak, please raise your hand. No, sir.
Seeing no one wishing to speak, the public session is now closed. On to resolutions, all matters listed on the consent agenda are considered removed from the nature and when been by council will be enacted by one motion. Any item may be removed from the consent agenda that was discussed with any council member in the floor will be treated as a separate matter. Any items requiring expenditure are supported by a certificate of the availability of funds. There will be an executive session at the end of council, at the end of the session of council. And at the end of the meeting.
I have that problem tonight too.
And
We understand.
We'll come back into public session to make a comment for the record after the executive session has concluded. Any vote made on the subjects discussed will be made in public, including. And do I have a motion for the consent agenda?
I can make the necessary motion to approve consent agenda resolution 124 to 139, 2006.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any discussion on any of the resolutions? Any questions on? With some folks here, any questions on the manual?
I don't have a question, but I have a flag.
Flag
Yeah.
or-
Whatever, it's the Ukraine flag. It's the discretion of everyone. I have no official recommendation.
Very nice.
As such, no.
I have a motion to approve.
We make the necessary motion to approve the consent agenda for resolution 124 to 139, 2026.
Second.
Roll call.
Mrs. Bucci?
Yes.
Mr. Deweese?
Yes.
Mr. Leeds?
Yes.
Mr. Notaro?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Utz? Mr. Palestina?
Yes.
Motion carries for the adoption of the consent agenda.
Ordinance, I'm motion to introduce ordinance 7/2023.
I'd like to make a motion to introduce ordinances 7, 2022 to be read by title only.
Five seconds.
Ordinance 7 of 2022 is a bond ordinance appropriating $1,300,000 and authorizing the issuance of $1,235,000 in bonds or notes of the city of Northfield for the purchase of a new fire truck to be undertaken by the city of Northfield in the county of Atlantic, New Jersey. This is the introduction. There will be no public input. The bond ordinance will be published in the Press of Atlantic City on June 18th. It is presently posted in full in the lobby of City Hall as well as on the municipal website. Any member of the public who asks for a copy of the bond ordinance will be provided with one free of charge simply by requesting one in the office of the municipal clerk. There will be a second reading, a public hearing at 7 PM on June 28th of 2022, after which the matter will be considered for final adoption.
Any questions on this? I think we already discussed that pricing is going up as asphalt went up. Okay. Roll call.
Mrs. Bucci?
Yes.
Mr. Deweese?
Yes.
Mr. Leeds?
Yes.
Mr. Notaro?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Utz? Mr. Palestina?
Yes.
Motion carries for the introduction of ordinance 7 of 2022.
And I have a motion to introduce ordinance 8-2022.
Under the FAA, we introduce ordinance 8/2022. Be read by title only.
Ordinance 8 of 2022 is an ordinance amending section 215-42 of the Code of the City of Northfield governing land use and development. This is the introduction. There will be no public input. The matter will be published in the Press of Atlantic City on June 18th of 2022. The ordinance is presently posted in full on the municipal website as well as in the lobby of City Hall. Any member of the public who requests a copy of the ordinance may obtain one free of charge in the office of the municipal clerk simply by requesting it. And there will be a second reading public hearing on June 28th of 2022, after which the matter will be considered for final adoption. Just a housekeeping note, this is a land use ordinance that would typically be referred to the planning board for a period of 45 days where they can consider it and then return their opinion. But in this case, Councilman Utz did give them advance notice of the intention of the ordinance, and we did receive written approval prior to the introduction. So the solicitor has deemed that it's not necessary to refer. So we will be considering this for final adoption at the next meeting. Mrs. Bucci?
Yes.
Mr. Deweese?
Yes.
Mr. Leeds?
Yes.
Mr. Notaro?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Utz? Mr. Palestina?
Yes.
Motion carries for the introduction of ordinance 8 of 2022.
Bills, it's been a motion to pay the bill of $1,195,278.77.
Second.
Roll call.
Mrs. Bucci?
Yes.
Mr. Deweese?
Yes.
Mr. Leeds?
Yes.
Mr. Notaro?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Utz? Mr. Palestina?
Yes.
Motion carries for payment of bills.
And we notice next city council meeting is June 2022, 15 work session, regular session, community comment, and motion to adjourn.
Nope.
Before we adjourn, just
We-
just before-
Executive session.
You see the,
Yeah.
I'm serious.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Taking more now,
Hold on. I have to read my statement first. I'm so sorry. For those of you who don't know, we actually have an injunction against us that requires that I read this at every single executive session. So it's not anything I do just because I love it. Resolution 139 of 2022 was just adopted as part of the consent agenda. This is a resolution providing for an executive session not open to the public in accordance with the provisions of the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-12B4, in this instance regarding potential contract negotiations between the City of Northfield and the Northfield Professional Firefighters Association, local number 2364. For those of you participating by Zoom, when the executive session begins, those who are present, members of the public hearing council chambers will be asked to excuse themselves from the room. The doors will be closed. I will turn off the audio and video portions of the Zoom meeting. When the executive session concludes, council will come back into public session and I will resume the audio and the video. You're welcome to stay until that time because a statement will be made for the record. So as I said before, we are required to set forth as much information as possible about the subject matter to be discussed in closed session, as well as provide for the members of the public the amount of time they can expect to elapse before the non-public minutes will be disclosed. And for that, I will defer to the solicitor for comment.
Thank you, Mary. As authorized by Resolution 139, 2022, the City Council will now enter into an executive session not open to the general public in accordance with the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act. Matters to be discussed are terms and conditions of a collective bargaining agreement between the city and Northfield Professional Firefighters Association, Local 4364, and potential negotiations of the terms and conditions of that agreement. Council will keep minutes of this executive session as required by law, which will be approved by council and made available for public inspection when required and permitted by law. At this time, the time for those minutes to be public is unknown. Council will remain in council chambers for this executive session and will return to the statement for the record. It is not anticipated there will be any official action.
Do another roll call?
No. Mr. Facenda?
Yes, council. Council for the city of Northfield has concluded its executive session authorized by Resolution 139, 2022. Subject matter discussed was potential negotiations of the Professional Firefighters Association Local 2364 collective bargaining agreement. Minutes were kept, which will be available for public inspection once the situation is resolved. Right now, that time is unknown. No official action was taken.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope. All right.